Since the release of Sonic 3, I decided to play Sonic games again. There are a lot of Sonic games I didn't get a chance to play, and I had a lot of choices. In the end, I picked 3 games to play: Sonic Mania, Sonic Adventure, and Sonic Frontiers. Out of all the Sonic games I've played, Sonic Frontiers was the most interesting one to me. I've always thought an open world Sonic game would be difficult, but if executed right, it can be hailed as one of the best Sonic games ever made. The story starts with Eggman using a disc on an obelisk to bypass its secrets and extract them. It malfunctions, trapping Eggman in a place called cyberspace. Sonic and his friends fly over Starfall Island to find the Chaos Emeralds, and if you played any Sonic game that has Tails flying a plane, then you can already tell what's gonna happen. Sonic and his friends get sucked into cyberspace, with Sonic being the only one who escaped. A voice tells him to find the Chaos Emeralds and destroy the Titans, for he is the key. As Sonic searches for his friends, he finds Amy trapped in cyberspace, projected as a hologram but able to communicate with a species called Cocos. An AI called Sage advises Sonic to leave because his time is inevitable. Sage tries to help Eggman escape cyberspace, but nothing works. Sonic goes to different islands to save his friends. Every time Sonic saves one of his friends, he gets corrupted with cyber energy. The only way to save his friends is to silence 6 towers. Each time Sonic silences the towers, he gets flashbacks of the people who built the technology on the islands. They were using Chaos Emeralds to defend themselves from something. After Sonic silences the last tower, his friends and Eggman escape, but he gets fully corrupted in the process. The entity that wiped out the ancient civilization breaks free and will consume the world. Sonic's friends absorb his corruption and they become trapped in cyberspace again. Sonic turns back to normal and has to collect the Chaos Emeralds to defeat the entity. He succeeds in defeating the entity, but Sage sacrifices herself before the entity takes everything with him. And that's basically the story. I didn't want to explain all the details because the next part I'll talk about are mostly connected to the story. This is the most unique Sonic game I've ever played, not only because of the writing and characters, but also how the game is presented to you. It fully embraces the idea of exploration with minimal waypoints and only a compass to find your way. Obviously, you can just open the map and put a marker on an objective like any game, but compare this to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where it's full of markers and objectives that don't encourage you to explore at all. It's just you going from one objective to another without any sense of adventure. A game that I thought Sonic Frontiers was trying to copy at first was Breath of the Wild. Both do encourage exploration with minimal markers, but the more I played Sonic Frontiers, the more I realized that it is its own game. The world has walls to climb, springs to bounce on, rails to grind. The world isn't oversaturated with them. It feels like the right amount of platforming that doesn't make the world look unnatural. There is a part of the game that does the opposite, but that'll be later in the video. The Cocos are just chilling in the world, making the world feel like it has genuine life to it. You can talk to your friends while you're exploring, but here's the catch: you need to pass a certain amount of memory shards to not only progress the story, but also participate in side stories, which is one of the ways the game encourages you to explore. Some people might hate it when they go to the main objective and find out that they have to get memory shards in the world, but again, if you just wanted to finish the story, then what's the point of it being open world? The puzzles in the world are a hit or miss for me, because some of them are like, go to this specific area in a minute, or pass through these rings in order, and I have no idea where should I start, and it's just me doing trial and error just to reveal a section of the map. I have no problem for a challenge, like I enjoy trying to perfect my timing while I'm jumping the rope or literally playing Tetris, but some of them just feel unnecessary and exist for the sole purpose of filling the game with stuff. There is fishing, which makes sense for an open world, especially when there's literally a character whose entire personality is fishing. Making the fastest thing alive in an open world sounds easier on paper, but how do you put this in an open world? And how do you make stages in an open world when what makes a Sonic game are the levels? Well, this is one of the ways the game encourages exploration. As I said before, Sonic is the only one who can enter and exit cyberspace, which are contained in these obelisks scattered around the islands. These are the levels, and finishing them gives you vault keys to get a Chaos Emerald. The biggest aspects of Sonic levels are the replayability and routes, and Frontiers executes these aspects really well. Some levels are long enough that it doesn't feel dragged on, and others are short enough that it doesn't feel like I'm rushed. The higher the rank, the more vault keys you get, but there are also objectives instead of just finishing the level before a certain time. Getting all the red stars or getting a certain number of rings made me go back and try every route the level gave me. There are moments where the controls feel slow and slippery, especially when there's a drifting section, but that's just me being picky, since you can still finish the game without even encountering it. The combat in Frontiers was better than I expected. There are moments where I have to utilize a lot of Sonic's attack sets, but some of them are useless because there are far more effective attacks. The enemies have variety that made me think outside the box and forced me to use different combos instead of just pressing the attack button over and over again. I wish the skill points were used for something else after completing the skill tree, like leveling up, or it can be converted to something else. The leveling up in Frontiers is so unnecessary. I understand that the game is encouraging me to explore to level up, but it feels underdeveloped. Like taking out the entire level up currency and just using skill points to level up and get new skills sounds so much better. Why do I need to level up my speed, ring capacity, attack, and defense individually? It would have been so much better if all of them leveled up at the same time, or there was a level up system like Unleashed. The songs go criminally hard. They go they go so hard for no reason. Since Sonic Adventure 1, Sega went to rock and never looked back, but I never thought metal would go so hard for a Sonic game. Sonic Frontiers has one of the best vocals in any Sonic game, and the fucking bosses with the soundtrack is just peak Sonic. It's so good. Listen to Find Your Flame and you'll understand the secret of life. It's so fucking good. Sega made Super Sonic cool again, because in the older games it was just Super Sonic at the end of the game and then you can play him again in the levels, but here it feels like it's a part of Sonic and moves the plot instead of being an addition. The writing is one of the game's main strong suits and it shows. The unwavering spirit of Sonic as he resists the corruption to save his friends and at the same time reassures them. Tails' insecurity of being a burden to Sonic and choosing to go alone to be independent at the end of the game. Even Eggman is written with care. In the other games, he mostly complains and fends for himself, but here he commends Sage for exceeding his expectation and even says he's proud of her. The game shows a softer side of Eggman that I didn't know he had. He even mentioned Sage as his daughter, a father and daughter dynamic that made me feel a connection with Eggman, while Sage changes as she sees the bond Sonic has with his friends, and even when Sage yearns for that kind of love and starts to feel like a daughter to Eggman, he doesn't dismiss her and treat her like one of his robots. With so few screen time Eggman gets, he's shown that he's so much more than just an egotistical genius with a burning hate for Sonic. He even stated that he respects Sonic.
I can confirm Sonic has made multiple breaches into cyberspace and escaped.
Through raw talent and no shortage of tenacity, I'm sure. Impressive.
You speak of him with respect as often as you curse him. I do not understand.
Oh, I hate that hedgehog. That doesn't change the fact that he is a formidable adversary. I respect him. I don't have to like him.
There are some core plots that feel lacking, like the final boss. We know that it's an entity that wants to destroy the world and it's literally called The End. We don't know anything else other than that. Also, when you go to the next island, you can still come back to the last one. So naturally, I tried 100%ing the first island and something caught my eye. And for your information, I already freed all my friends.
Tails is the genius among us. Let's find him and see if he can figure things out.
Right. I'm sure he'll hang on until I find him.
Why mention finding Tails when I already found him? I know this is a very specific thing to touch on, but it kept bothering me after I sat through that. The final Horizon DLC is basically a what-if scenario. Instead of freeing Sonic's friends and curing his cyber corruption, he'll convert the corruption to power while his friends collect the Chaos Emeralds. That means Amy, Knuckles, and Tails are playable, but putting them in an open world is harder than putting Sonic in an open world. And this is the part where the world design falls short. If 4 characters are playable, then the world has to be tailored to these 4 characters. I like that they added unique platforms for each characters and you have to use their abilities to progress, but it's so crowded and weird to look at. In a gameplay standpoint, the platforms are well made. In a design standpoint, it looks like someone used Roblox Studio. This did not encourage me to explore at all. I don't know why they had to reset my level. As I said, the level up is severely flawed. Though leveling up in the DLC is much easier than the main game because of one thing, the slot machine. Once every few days, a Starfall event occurs. In the main game, you can get purple coins for fishing, but in the DLC, purple coins are replaced with items used for leveling up. And they kinda break the game with how many items they give you. Like just from one event, I maxed out Amy. The skill trees are fine, I guess. Some of them are a hit or miss for me, and most of the time I didn't fight. I just focused on getting the Chaos Emeralds. A lot of the times I used their abilities to complete obstacles not as intended. Like, I used Knuckles gliding to get where I needed without even doing any platforming, or using Tails plane to fly literally wherever I want. While Sonic's friends are collecting the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic goes through trials to harness his corruption as power, and to be honest, the trials are challenging and fun. I like how the trials force me to change how I approach an enemy and use a lot of Sonic's attack sets. The thing that really frustrated me was the final trial where I had to fight all 3 bosses. This trial forced me to master perfect parry, which I had no problem, but what really annoyed me was the time. Supersonic's rings gradually run out, which makes sense and honestly makes it more of a challenge, but you can't replenish your rings. What I mean by this is that when you start with 400 rings, they're gonna be with you until the end of the trial. I could not, for the life of me, go back to the beginning every time I die. You basically had to have a perfect run with 0 problems. If they just reset the rings with each boss or make a way that you can replenish your rings, that would have been so much better. I did not want to do a perfect run, so I bottled up my ego and finished the final trial on easy mode. Some of you might like this kind of challenge, but it is not for me. The final boss is my favorite boss, and objectively, the worst boss in the game. Why? Because the game literally didn't give me anything to work with. The boss regenerates, so logically I thought I just had to fight faster, but the health bar just stopped midway. It just stopped. I did not know what to do. After watching a tutorial video, I found out that I had to press R1 so Sonic can switch his target to the cable and destroy it. Then use my Cyclope to use the boss's weapon. The game gave me 0 hints on how to break the cable, but all of this I can ignore because of one thing. One singular thing that made the entire boss so much better. Supersonic 2.
Show.